Stop the presses. The Mets have won a baseball game, and the polar bear stays alone on his own iceberg. Love the call from Gary Cohn. His personal iceberg. We have a personal friend on the show today. It's Nelson Figueroa, former Mets pitcher, host of New York Sports Nation Nightly on Pix 11. Figgy, welcome back. I'm Jake Brown at Jake Brown Live. You're watching Mets Daily. Let's just get right into it. Let's not exchange any pleasantries because we got a lot to get into.
Done.
First off, Pete, a win. We got breaking news. What do we start with today, Figgy? Do we start with the breaking news? Do we go to Pete? What do you want to hit on first?
Let's get the breaking news out the way because the
All
Pete
right.
was the inevitability, right? We knew that was going to happen.
Let's start with the breaking news. Nolan McLean has got the call. He's finally coming to Queens, and this guy's been waiting. He's seen Dome pass him. He's seen Bums pass him. He's seen all these. Dom Hamill, I should say, not Dome. Dom Hamill pass. He's finally coming to Queens, the king of Queens. Nolan McLean will start for the Mets on Saturday against the Seattle Mariners at Citi Field. It happens to be Juan Soto bobblehead day as well at Citi Field. So a sellout crowd already for the bobbleheads, with a quarter of them selling them on eBay. And now they get to see McLean. Figgy, I think this is the only move to be made. You know, Blackburn, they say to the bullpen. We'll talk about that in a bit. Montas to the bullpen. We'll talk about that later. That's not urgent. But they give the kid a shot, and we were waiting. And we were looking up before the show, like, was it because of his rookie status next year and they could get a draft pick because that September 16th date was when it would start, and Saturday happens to be the 16th? Whatever it is, contractual, whatever, it's finally here. Might be late, but better late than never.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it. The PPI is the program, that the initiative that was to try and get more teams to stop hoarding the players and keeping them from reaching arbitration earlier. Super 2 is what it used to be called. If you got to there before your 3 years, arbitration is 3 years in the big leagues, but you were Super 2 if your clock got started a little early. So we saw that with a lot of teams, but we also know that if the guy is good enough to help your team win now, this front office and this ownership group doesn't care if they're worth the money. They're going to make sure they can do everything they can to find a way to pay them, whatever they're worth. And arbitration is different, right? It's not a free agency thing. You're going to lose the player, but you may have to go to arbitration. You put in a different number and you deal with it. It's a different era in Mets baseball. So I'm not worried about that being the reason. I think more so than anything is that, you're expected to be able to contend. You spent a lot of money to bring certain guys in, and you want to give them every opportunity to prove themselves. And they gave Frankie Montas every opportunity. In fact, they tried to do things in a different way with the opener and really detriment to their bullpen by doing the opener with Frankie Montas. And it's funny because you're supposed to give the guy a soft landing spot, when you use an opener. The 4, 5, 6 of the lineup for the Milwaukee Brewers who had just won 8 games in a row really wasn't a soft landing spot. And we saw him struggle right out the bat, right? 30 some odd pitch first inning, throwing a lot of breaking balls in 3-2 counts. But that's who Frankie Montas was. And that's what we saw out of him last year. So he got a lot of swings and misses. He had a high strikeout rate. They felt like it was repeatable. And they could harness it in the pitching lab in a way that they saw success with a guy like Luis Severino, with Manaya, and felt Montas could be cut from the same cloth. Injuries derailed that plan very early, and just him getting healthy enough to come back, and he never looked right from his time in the minor leagues and the rehab assignment to when he came up to the big leagues. He had a couple of flashes here and there of competent pitching at the big league level, but nothing that was sustainable and give you any reason to say, hey, yeah, let's just keep him in the rotation. It'll click in here. So they did the right thing. They moved him out. They bring in McLean to have his opportunity. And man, I can tell you, I've been McLean many, many, many times where you're dominating at the minor league level. He at least got moved up from AA to AAA. He's in AAA, pitching very, very well. To a sub 200 batting average. It's a lot different now. Of course, these guys are going 5 innings, and you're like, oh my God, it's an amazing start, 5 innings. Whereas when I was coming up, it was 5 and dive, and it was an insult. Like all you can throw is 5 innings. You're not a real starter. You're barely a reliever. So now, you're looking for somebody to come in and give you 5+ innings. We haven't seen that a lot. And especially since the All-Star break, we haven't seen a lot in baseball in general. So to get these guys to give quality starts, which is 6 innings, 3 runs or less, has been a chore. Hopefully McLean can go out there and do that, and if he can, he's going to be the one of those 5 guys in the rotation for the rest of the season.
When I was a minor leaguer back in the day, when I was a boy, it's
Back
crazy
in
though.
my day.
That's been 20 years for you. I mean, that's got 20,
Watch him out.
25 years, I think. I can't even do the math. It's so far back. You know, I was still wearing diapers almost at that point, learning my ABCs when you were in the minor leagues. Bar. There's Jay Swizzy back at it, which you called out on Pix 11. 1.37 in 5 starts in AA, 2.78 in 16 appearances in AAA. You know, like you said, he's been passed over left and right, and the numbers are there. You know, the numbers have been there consistently where he's going 5 innings, 1 run, 6 innings, 1 run. And God forbid, like you said, can a Mets starter get 6 innings? Heck, can a Mets starter get through 5? We're at a point where you're asking this bullpen some nights to get, like last night, 17 outs. Not 15.
Yeah.
They got to get 17 because they can't get through the 4th. And they're hitting a point here where they have to consider, and they really should, move Clay Holmes to the bullpen or make him an opener. Make him a 2-inning guy and then go to a McLean. Or if that's why Blackburn's here, fine. Although I'm not a big fan of it. They you know, he's pitched more innings than he has in his life. You've already moved from Montas. McGill is on his way back, so that's another name that we have to think about. He's just made a rehab start. So, you know, they got a lot of interesting decisions they're going to have to make while also trying to hold on to a wild card spot and still trying to compete for a division. You're 5 out of the division. You're 2 up in the wild card. And as much as we want to say maybe the Mets are out of the division, Figgy, they play the Phillies 7 times. And you win 6 of those 7, anything could happen. Those head-to-head games determine the season. But I think Brandon Sproat is now next, waiting on the horizon. Jonah Tong, who is in AAA, also waiting on the horizon. McLean, he's been the most consistent. Sproat's probably been the hottest of late. And Tong's been the most dominant. Do we see Sproat and Tong maybe in September? Do we just see Sproat? Or are you looking at this as McLean and that's it?
I'm looking at McLean and is kind of auditioning for all 3 guys, right? They want to see how the development is being handled at the minor league level. If McLean looks like the most complete of the 3 pitchers, he's done it more consistently than the other pitchers. Tong has dominated AA. He just moved up to AAA, so let's see what he does in AAA. To me, the jump shouldn't be that exaggerated for him. He has been, that dominant at the lower levels. So his stuff plays. He's a little different than the other pitchers. We were talking about power pitchers who are throwing, 97 miles an hour, Sproat throwing, up to 100 miles an hour. These are 2 guys that, have plus stuff, whereas Jonah Tong gets a bunch of strikeouts because he has just a plethora of pitches, a lot of movement on his pitches, and he just comes from a funky different angle way up over the top that a lot of hitters don't see. So it'll be interesting to see what AAA does with him, the first go around. But I think this is you have to realize who you're dealing with, right? David Stearns. One of the things that I marveled at, even while the Mets were doing poorly, you looked out there and 7 of the 9 guys on the field were homegrown Mets. You got to give some credit to the organization for that, and to David Stearns not coming in and being like, I didn't draft any of these guys, I'm going to get rid of them and get my own guys. There is value in that for an organization and for these guys that are playing together. So I feel that trend is going to continue. It's very similar to Milwaukee. What they have done throughout the years is they built from within, and they've had some superstars on the horizon. When Jackson Churio, those guys, you hear some of the names that come up through their organization. Collins, who looks like he's starting to push towards a Rookie of the Year vote, and things of that nature. So it's always interesting to see how different front offices do it, whether we saw Billy Epler go out and say, hey, give me a checkbook and I'll bring you a winner, which didn't work in Anaheim. So I don't know why we thought it was going to work in New York. And then you see, David Stearns came in here and he said, you know what, we need the proper tools. And we have professional athletes, we have professional baseball players, and let's give them the proper tools to harness what they're really good at and what we can develop. And they've been able to do that for the most part with their minor leaguers. So I'm excited to see what this next batch brings. However, it's a win now mode, right? So if they go out there and it's like, oh well, he did pretty well and then he imploded, that's not going to get the job done either. So the Clay Holmes issue is a very big issue because Clay Holmes signed to be a starter and wanted to prove that he could be a starter. He did a fantastic job in the first 2 months. Since then, it's been a struggle. It's been a big time struggle just to
But
get
how
through
don't they
five
see
innings.
that, Figgy? Like, how don't they see in the fourth inning and the fifth inning every time he implodes? Is it a sense of arrogance now? Because listen, they finally moved on to Montas to the bullpen. I think we all know that was a dreadful signing. People were tweeting me, they're not going to DFM AM and eat the money. Listen, Steve Cohen ate Robinson Cano's money. They ate some of Verlander. I think they have no problem eating the money if they have to. He has only got like 8 starts, so we got to be fair to Montas. And it hasn't been a whole season of ineptitude because he was hurt. But doesn't this, people are coming down on Hefner now. They're like, how do you go 2 months without anyone besides Peterson going 6 innings? I mean, it's hard to fathom when you have arms that were incredible last year and giving you 6 in Manaea, in Senga, in Peterson. So, I don't think it's on Hefner. I think it's probably more on the pitchers. But doesn't this coaching staff, don't these people up top, don't the scouts see, hey, Holmes doesn't have it. I know we signed him as a starter, but I think he's going to be better served for us as maybe like Montas did. You have someone open the game, he goes 3 innings, then you go to the next reliever.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Clay Holmes and when he started out this project, April, March, he was pitching to a 2.64 ERA. He had 6 starts, 30 innings pitched. So there's your 5 innings, a little plus. It's 0.2. But he had 36 strikeouts to 13 walks, right? So that's almost a 4-to-1 there. I'm sorry, 3-to-1 ratio when you look at walks to strikeouts. Then May came, and that strikeout to walk ratio became a 2-to-1, 10-to-20. June came, and now it was a 12-to-19, and now you start to see more walks and less strikeouts. July, 11-to-6. August so far, it's a 6-to-10. So the swing and miss stuff. The surprise to everyone was the kick change. The surprise to everyone was the difference in his arsenal of what he was as a closer, throwing 98 miles an hour. He's now throwing 92 miles an hour, and it's not an arm. It's not a arm fatigue thing. He's mindset as a starter was, I'm going to pitch to contact a little bit more, but these sinkers are not remaining in the strike zone. We saw that happen to him as a closer with the Yankees, and he was a all-star closer in the first half. In the second half, they didn't even let him close games anymore, right? He lost his job. So we've seen this happen before as seasons get longer for him, and that was just in a 1 inning role. So why are we trying to continue to push and squeeze as much as we can out of this orange? There's no juice left. For me, it's what's the most important thing? Trying to get to the playoffs and win the World Series. So can he be a factor? Absolutely. I loved the signing because I said even if it didn't work out in the experiment, you had a guy who can go in the 8th inning and give you, a proven commodity in the 8th inning and get you outs. Now they went and got, all the reinforcements that they got in the bullpen, and you can add a Clay Holmes to be the bridge guy or, a situational bridge guy. Remember Andrew Miller famously was brought in to be the stopper, right? He redeveloped himself as a stopper. He was a starter in the minor leagues. He was a starter at the beginning of his major league career, and then he became a stopper. And that was the most important pitching role in all of baseball because it didn't matter what happened at the end of the game if you lost the 7th inning, where you had, the big part of the lineup coming up and you needed to shut them down. You brought in Andrew Miller, and he became a stopper, a 2-pitch pitcher with great stuff. You need to challenge Clay Holmes to be that stopper. We're going to bring you in the 6th inning. If these guys only giving us 5, you're going to be the 6th and 7th inning guy. Go out there and pound the zone and get us 2 innings and bring us to the back end. So I think that's going to be something that we will see. I think there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and that's why we're talking about Sproat, because now it's kind of, you need Sproat and McLean, because whether they're bridge guys, whether they're 4th, 5th, 6th inning, whether they're the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, however they want to divvy it, they're going to need both of them here. And listen, there's a lot of pressure to put on 2 guys. On a team, let's be realistic. I think we all still have expectations of going on a playoff run. Like, as bad as this stretch has been the last few weeks,
No doubt.
your expectation, your hope with this payroll, with this roster, is that you go on a run through the playoffs and you don't just sneak in now as a wild card and everything's good and grand.
Yeah, no, you can't sit back and just hope things happen. That's not the mode that the Mets are in. Remember, Steve Cohen said, what was the window? 3 to 5 years, he
we're at
said,
year
right?
5 right now. Yeah. And I think this is also why, Figgy, that a lot of fans are a little frustrated the Mets didn't go heavier for starting pitching at the trade deadline, because they foresaw what is happening. That's happening. Pitchers, they saw it for 2 months. They saw pitchers not go 5-6 innings. Now it's not even 5, like 6. Like if they go 5 now, like you said, we're giving them a round of applause. If they go 5,
Yeah.
6 is a thing of the past. It's just not going to happen, which you can live with the bullpen until they get overtaxed every day. So we'll see how this ends up working out. It's going to be fascinating. McLean's numbers are very interesting. He's third in AAA in ground ball percentages, which is good to see. A slash line of 184, 285, 291. He's got a 33.3% K rate over his last 7 starts. So he's going to be fascinating. He's got a nasty sweeper. And he's just been consistent all year, where Sproat started off dreadful for a few months. So I'm excited to see if that consistency comes here. The other thing to watch with McLean, Figgy, is his innings limit. I mean, these minor leaguers always, they have innings limits.
Yeah.
And obviously it was different in your day, but now it's like he's already at 113 2/3, which is the most of his career thus far. I don't envision him coming up here and being a 6-inning guy. Like, he's going to be similar to the others. He's going to be 4 and 5, and after a couple starts, they might say, all right, he's hit 140 innings. We've exhausted him. And that's maybe when they go to Sproat, maybe when they consider a Tong. But they're in an interesting position there. All right, final point on that, and then we'll go to Pete.
I got one other thing to bring up, because we're talking about the young guys coming and helping. So the cavalry was supposed to be Manaea, Senga, and Montas. Montas, disaster, moved him to the pen. Manaea has fared okay. He still looks like he's struggling at times. We've seen with all these pitchers. The one key factor, the biggest X factor, was Kodai Senga. Kodai Senga in the first half pitched to a 1.39 ERA. In the 4 starts in the second half, he has over a 6.5 ERA. Not only that, his swing and miss stuff, as we said before, he's got 14 walks to 14 strikeouts. Is that trick pony with the ghost forkball? They're not swinging at it unless it's 2 strikes. And if he can't get to 2 strikes, then they're going to get on his fastball. He just looks like a different pitcher since he's come back from the injury. There's a couple of starts that I've watched where he just looks bored. Looks like he's out there just flipping up nothing but forkballs early on, and he doesn't have that 95, 96, 97 mile an hour fastball and trying to dominate hitters. It looks like he's just trying to go through the motions, first 2 times through the lineup, and then maybe try to kick it in the gear. I don't know if that's by design, by game plan. Like, we old starters, we used to ease ourselves into it, right? You didn't show everything you had to the first, 5 hitters, throwing all your different pitches. He throws 4 different pitches. They shouldn't see every single pitch he throws, every single batter in a row. You know what I mean? It's like, use your fastball, get ahead. Maybe put them away with a forkball. They know you have the ghost forkball. It's not a surprise anymore. But what I'm watching out of Kodai Senga is very concerning. So yeah, you want to talk about the young kids coming to save the guys that you're counting on. Kodai Senga was here to be an ace of the staff. He has never wanted to be an ace of the staff. He has said that. I literally asked him the question 2 years ago when I was like, "You're the de facto ace of the staff," and he's like, "No, I'm not an ace." I was like, "Oh my God, are you kidding me? This is the opportunity of a lifetime. You're here on a 4-year deal. By default, you're the ace of the staff now." And he's never wanted to be that guy. And so you need someone to step up to be an ace. And whether it's Manaea, whether it's David Peterson, and Peterson has pitched that way of being an all-star, but when is he going to start wearing down? It's a very trying times as a New York Mets starter. And what the game plan was kind of to just tread water until we needed to kick it in the gear. It might be too little too late to try and catch the Phillies if that's going to be the game plan. Let's put it this way. The Mets have 30 quality starts on the season, right? The Phillies have 64. There's a big difference in what they're doing with their starting rotation. And if you tell me that Sanchez looks taxed, he does not. If you tell me Ranger Suarez looks taxed, he does not. That Zach Wheeler looks taxed, he does not. These guys are kicking it into another mode because the expectation is when I'm out there, I'm giving it 5, 6, 7, and getting into that 3rd time through the lineup so that the bullpen isn't so taxed and they can finish off the job that I start.
Yeah, this pitching lab's going to need to be studying the offseason how they get these guys deep in their games, because Sangam and I are game 1 and 2. Those are probably your first 2 guys, and then Peterson, I would imagine, and then game 4 maybe is a Holmes. I mean, that's a conversation for a later date, but Manaea in the 4th inning looks like he needs oxygen. I mean, by the fourth inning,
Yeah.
Sean Manaea looks like he is completely and utterly exhausted. I don't know if that's a stamina thing or when he was rehabbing, if he got out of shape. He does look a little bigger, but I don't know if that's, that's going to be something to monitor here, because these guys are all just out of gas by the fourth, and we're only in August. Your hope is you're going till the World Series schedule came out. Your hope is you're going up till right around Halloween and November 1st when Game 7 of the World Series is. And if they get there, I mean, I think they're all going to need to be in a hospital bed because they're going to just be out of gas. They're going to look like me after my pickleball games I've been playing, where I just need
Nice.
oxygen.
So the pitching lab is great for spin rates, for velocity, for tweaks that you can make. The pitching lab is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to in season, there's two things that can only be measured: one by reaching within, and the other one by reaching down. Let's just put it that way.
That was very deep. I assume reaching down is reaching for your balls. I'd imagine that's what the reaching down is. But this is a family program. No, it's not. Balls, balls, balls. You're watching Mets Daily. Smash that thumbs up. We're 21 minutes in, and we have yet to talk about the polar bear on his personal iceberg. That's how you know the amazing but true is back, because we are professional yappers. We just keep going and going. We're the Energizer Bunny. We're the Geico Piggy in the back. Whee! Just in the back seat of the car. We should keep going. So we got to move a little quicker, but we got to honor Pete. And I think it's good for me and you to talk, because the two times that I've interacted with Pete were both with you. One on the phone on the Amazing But True podcast. I believe it was 2020, if I'm not mistaken. I think we had him on in the off season after the 2020 season.
Yes.
I have to go back and look. I think they deleted the show from the archives. Dexter Henry's show, the feed has replaced it. Dexter's my friend. I'm not going to hate on Dexter, but our feed has been replaced. So that's kind of funny. But the polar bear on the show talked about, I always remember I said, what do you think about, what did I say, the dad bod? And he said, it's more of a power, I call it a power bod. He also told us he doesn't eat anything out of a bag, which I found interesting. So I'm
Something like that.
I'm like a mid Cool Ranch Dorito when we're interviewing him out of a bag. He's like, I don't eat food out of a bag. Fascinating interview. And then when I met him in person, now I think you've met him in person several times. That was the first time I met him face to face. He complimented this chain, my backup chain, and I said,
"Oh, it's not green anymore.
Don't tell anyone from TJ Maxx, because I think this is a fresher one from TJ Maxx. So this is the chain he complimented. So I was like, I whispered, don't tell him it's $50 from TJ Maxx, and he laughed. So that was cool. And listen, I've been someone, I will admit, because people will come after me. Someone already did on Twitter that I said that the Mets should not bring him back in the offseason. That doesn't mean I can't be happy for the record. That doesn't mean he's going to be here for life. I think it is an awesome record. Daryl's a guy that we've talked to, that we've sat with in suites, that we love as well. Daryl handled it all with class, which was good. Some guys might not want their record being some of these old timers. So I think that was good.
It's inevitable.
And I think it was cool that he tacked on a second one, Figgy. He added a second to say, you know what, now I'm really ahead. They can't look back and replay and say that one didn't go over. Now I'm officially 2 ahead and all is good. It's a pressure off his shoulder. Everyone celebrated. They'll have a ceremony before the game tonight. More importantly to me, they won the game. They ended the losing streak. They scored 13 runs. They hit a bunch of homers. I know the Braves suck, but you got to beat who's on your schedule. And with a tough schedule ahead, you got to beat these winnable games. So congratulations to Pete. I'm still not someone that says make him a Met for life. I know everyone says that, and you can hate me all you want. That's my personal opinion. I don't think he'll age well, but we'll talk about that on a future day. Today we honor a Mets legend who has hit 1 to 254 in a Mets uniform, has had some big moments, big playoff moments last year, and it's cool that he did it on the first game of homestand, stopping the bleeding in front of the home fans that have supported him all year, that he always shouts out in the greatest city in the world.
Yeah, since day one when he came up, he was different, right? We knew that he had power for days, prodigious power. They talked about how he, just could tear the cover off the ball, and then it was his defense is kind of suspect. Robinson Cano at the time was the fielding guru for the team and worked with Pete daily on his glove work, give him a little paddle, not using a whole first baseman's mitt, worrying about how big your mitt is. A little paddle just bigger than his hand, had him working on his hands, and he just become much, much better at first base defensively. There's some moments that he, lacks, of course, but I tell you what, when it comes to understanding who he is and what he means to this team and this organization, Pete Alonso has never shied away from the responsibility of being a face of a franchise. Lindor was brought in as a free, with the trade and an extension given to him, and he was brought in because of what they thought he could be. Pete was homegrown, and if it wasn't for Lindor, you would honestly say Pete would have to be the captain. He was the next in line. But having said that, Pete Alonso has done nothing but impressed with the bat. 53 home runs in his first season, breaking the rookie record that was just set the year before by Aaron Judge, and has gone toe to toe with Aaron Judge as far as who hits more home runs since they've made their debuts. And he wanted to do this in a Met uniform. You knew he wanted to stay in a Met uniform. You knew when he hired Scott Boras, that was, being the highest paid first baseman. The Mets did that at the time, gave him the 30 million and then dropped to 24 million. And next year, if he picks up his option, which again, I think they're going to rip that up. And if you're telling me that if you wanted to move guys around and keep all the young guys and move Vientos to first, whatever, the Pete wouldn't be a great DH, then you're sadly mistaken. Pete is perfect for a DH role and can still hit the cover off the ball and still play first base. I don't think he's going to just, oh my God, I'm a whopping 34 and not be able to move. He started out so well this year, a man on a mission, carried the team when others, lacked. And no one has ever come up from the minor leagues and been able to change a culture or a mindset for an organization like Pete Alonso has. And remember, it was LGM. He changed it instantly. And LFGM was born and gave this team hope that help was on the horizon. And a guy like him could be drafted by the Mets and developed by the Mets. And, he wanted to, he still says it. He wants to be a lifelong Met. He's going to probably go back out and try and hit the market and see what's there. But I think for all case and purposes, I would not shy away from trying to lock him up to a comfortable contract and let him be the DH. He deserves everything that comes his way, all the accolades for everything that he has been through, especially the free agency process where he was talked about in a way like people made up stories about him being a cancer in the clubhouse. And, all those stories, you haven't heard them lately, have you? Have you heard anything about how, in fact, we've noticed a side of Pete Alonso we never saw before, because this was a guy who all of a sudden speaks Spanish, and nobody knew that about him. His grandmother was from Spain. Nobody knew that about him. But the stories that were put out there for clicks were he's a cancer in the clubhouse. He doesn't like the Latin players. He doesn't get along with the Latin players. And yet you've asked, anytime we've ever been there and anybody I've ever asked, they would say that's the coolest dude in the room right there, because he's always been a team player.
Yeah, and listen, I do think things change as you get older and you mature. This could have been things a couple of years ago that have changed, as you get older. You just mature as you get older. You mature as a baseball player. So we don't know what's true and what's not, but we do know that he is standing alone on his personal iceberg. Great call from Gary. Ron with the great reaction. Ron jumped up. Keith, I get mad that Keith doesn't react, that he's just like looking at his scorecard.
He gave a giggle. He gave a heartfelt giggle.
I don't like that he just digs in. Like, look up. You figure out your stupid store card. I should have stroke. Store card. Figure out your store card, your Costco card, your discounts, your BJ's card later. But yeah, it's good for Pete. And listen, I would love if he did this. If he said, you know what? I'm going to play the second year of this deal. The Mets made me the highest paid first baseman in baseball, giving me $30 million this year. It's not going to happen because we know who his agent is, Scott Boras. But I really would love if he just played out the second year and then got a contract. But guys wanted insurance. He would like a big deal. He hasn't got that long-term deal yet because this is the 2-year deal with an opt-out. It's going to be fascinating. It feels like it's a lock he opts out, especially that now he's already mentioning like the business is the business. When you're saying that, it means you're 100% opting out, because otherwise he would just say, you know what, I'm taking the money.
Right, it's the same thing that Juan Soto was saying last year with the Yankees, and it's given and delivered by Scott Boras. That you want to, you're not gonna lose all your leverage, or at least make it seem that way. And it was a really tumultuous free agency process in which the owner and the GM had to fly down to Tampa to say face to face how they felt about Pete, because everything was getting so convoluted, misconstrued. Maybe he's better off going to Toronto because we're going to get Vladimir. We're going to pay more for Vladimir because he's younger. He's
Listen,
better.
I was one of those people. I can't deny. I really wanted Vladdy over Pete, so I'm not going to say I didn't want that.
No, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, look, I was right because he's having a good season or whatever, or he broke the record. So that record may stand only for the next 14 years. Honestly, I mean, Juan Soto hitting 20 home runs a year for 15 years is very plausible, and that's 300. So
Well,
that's
if Pete is gone, then I think Soto will break.
right.
Yes.
That's a low number if he's healthy and if he plays out the whole contract. There's a lot of ifs that go in it, right? Who knows? He gets traded away when he's 32. That's 6 years from now. What if he gets traded away when he's 32? So for now, Pete Alonso has earned that record, has gone out there, and if there wasn't a COVID year, he would have done it a lot quicker. And just to think that he has done it in almost a season less than Darryl Strawberry did, and Darryl Strawberry has said his biggest regret was leaving the Mets, right? And you imagine the numbers that he would have been able to put up in a Met uniform for the entirety of his career. So for Pete, maybe, all's well that ends well, but the business side of things will take over here at some point for both sides.
And I'm sad. Listen, didn't get to see Darryl. It's been cool. We sat with him Subway Series and Suite was awesome. That was a cool moment for me. I mean, that's normal stuff for you, but for me, I was like, look, I got Nelly behind me. I got Darryl here. We got, you get Carlos Beltran walks in. It's just like all these Mets stars walking up. So it's been cool to experience that with you, experience P. And, it hit home for me yesterday. I mean, me not being there, how mad I get when I'm not at these moments. Me not being at that game almost brought me to tears. Now, Pete is not my all-time favorite player. So if it was Wright or Piazza, it probably hurt a little bit more. But it still hurt for me. And I had my friends, my friends Luke and Drew. They were at the game with Nick. 3 of them, my old roommates, sending me pictures. And I'm here like, God damn it, how am I not in? But I was like selfishly hoping he did it Friday or Saturday because I might go. Of course he does it the first game. I'm glad they won. But I am a little sad that I've been in everything in Citi Field history, every moment.
Yeah.
Except for this and the only World Series win, the 2 moments.
Well, but, here's the good part. Every home run he hits now will break the record because it's his record to be broken.
Yes, that's like the Pythagorean theorem. That was confusing what you were calling it there. But yeah, listen, and now win. Here's the difference. Darryl won a World Series. David Wright won a pennant. Mike Piazza won a pennant. And I know a pennant's not that big a deal, but for the Mets, it's a big deal because it doesn't happen often. Go win a pennant, go win a World Series now. And listen, it might not happen this year, and then he's gone, and then it doesn't happen. But if he does go, the icing on the Polar Express would be a World Series. I know he wants it, but the icing on that iceberg would be a World Series. And I think if they win a World Series, Pete Alonso's gone. I think if they get to the ultimate goal, he's gone.
No. I could see that. That'd be a storybook walk-off for both sides. You know what I mean? Where he gave us everything he had, and we wish him the best. And he has the record and a ring. That would be everything all in one. Just remember, Jacob deGrom left for greener pastures and won a World Series ring the very next year. Not that he had anything to do with it, but he's still a World Series champion nonetheless. So I do think that would be the best way to do it, and you can't put icing on an iceberg. I don't think it's physically possible. Because
listen, I haven't traveled to those far lands. My parents have been to Alaska. I wouldn't be seen dead with a penguin in Alaska. My parents are going to Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm like, what are we filming? Rat Race 2? What are you going to Santa Fe? That's the only reason I knew Santa Fe, New Mexico exists. That and the college basketball tournament in New Mexico plays. I'm like, why are you going to Santa Fe, New Mexico? What are you doing? You got a treasure there? You want to bring back some cash for your son, Jake? My goodness.
All right. Well, let's land the plane. I tell you what, kudos to the Mets for stomping out Spencer Strider. Again, bad baseball team by the Braves, but a good pitcher that they were able to, really put a good whooping on, and they needed that. Let's see if it leads to bigger and better things.
That Beatty 6'5", 4'5" double play that he turned was such an example of how bad it's going for the Braves, because that's something that usually happens the last couple weeks to the Mets, and it happened to the Braves. And you thought it was deja vu all over again. They blow a 5-1 lead like they did in Milwaukee. The game is tied, and then finally Did Brandon Nimmo stop using the jackhammer on the on-deck circle? Because he's been unwatchable at the plate lately. He hits one out. Alvarez hits two. Beatty, who I've written off. The other day I said, and listen, I still think in the offseason they should move on from Brett Beatty. I don't love that Ronnie Mauricio is not playing a lot, but Beatty is shutting me up last couple of games with some big hits. So shout out to Brett Beatty. It was a team effort. Alvarez got it going when he first got up. He got a little dry spell, and now looks like he's back tonight. Another guy that we've spoken to. You know, we talked to him on the field. He taught me a little bit of Spanish. The Cookie Carrasco Spanish Academy. You got to whoop this guy. He's been terrible. He's been on like 12 teams this year. You have to beat Carlos Carrasco, Figgy, and you got to get this going because, like I said earlier, the schedule is brutal, and especially this weekend. Like, Nolan McLean's got to go up against a Mariners lineup with Cal Raleigh, with Eugenio Suarez, with Julio Rodriguez, with Randy Rosarina, with Jorge Polanco. A really good lineup in Seattle. And then they got to go to Williamstown, PA, which I talked about yesterday. Hate that the Mets lose another home game for a second straight year.
Williamsport.
Whatever. Same. There's a Williamstown down the block here in Harmon, New Jersey. Same thing. Williamsport, Little League Field. I hate it. But, you know, this team has to take care of business and win series now because it's getting serious. Final notes, Montas to the bullpen, Blackburn to the bullpen. What do you think about that? To me, I thought they would just DFA Blackburn. I think he'll be an arm for now. Now that, by the way, shout out to Justin Hageman. Pitched a no-hitter last night. 4 no-hitter innings.
Great.
He was huge. Saved the bullpen for today, and now, you know, they don't have a day off so coming up here, so it's good to save the bullpen. But it seems like Blackburn for now to the bullpen, Montas probably for the rest of the season. But what do you think about those moves? Like, to me, I would just DFA him, but I guess if you need innings. My issue is, too, that Blackburn, the one time he went to the bullpen was the start of the downfall in June when he complained of that game against Tampa Bay. They blew a 5-1 6-inning lead. He was like, I'm not a reliever. I wasn't that comfortable. Well, you better get comfortable quick, bro.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think at this point, Blackburn has to realize he needs to do anything and everything to stay on the roster at this point, right? This team has showed they don't care who you are. They will DFA your ass real quick. They've already gone through 42 pitchers on the season, which I've never seen. I'm going to repeat that number again. 42 pitchers, not players, pitchers, just pitchers. 42 of them have put on a Met uniform this year. So that should tell you that you can't be too comfortable no matter what. And poor Hageman, I mean, he did a fantastic job, and I've been this guy before as well. I won Subway sub of the game one night, and the next night I was sitting in the stands with the fans before we had our flight home. So it is an unfortunate situation. They need arms. They need to make sure that they have enough arms. So that's why Hageman is sent down, and you have Blackburn going to be able to pitch in relief as well as Montas. And, you know, these guys are pitching for their jobs, basically. I know there's, you know, they signed some deals and you got a lot of money, but money means nothing to this team. Winning is everything.
Christian Scott, in other news, threw a bullpen last week for the first time. So that's another pitcher you can't forget about for next year that's on the horizon for the Mets. You know, I think the future is incredibly bright with Benj going up, with Jet going up. 2026 looks incredible. We just want to scratch through 2025, though. Like, I still have hopes and prayers that this team can win it all with the National League and the parity in this league up for grabs. You got to find a way to patch this together, and hopefully McLean can get it going. But shout out to Pete Alonso. Shout out to the Mets. Let's get a win streak going. And looking forward to seeing the young guy come up. He's Nelson Figueroa at Pix 11 Sports Nation Nightly at Figgy NY 7 to 7:30 p.m. weekdays. Also Figgy and the Moose, which I filled in nicely for in a week.
Yes, you did.
About myself that I was nicely. Maybe I wasn't. I thought I did a nice job. And I'm Jake Brown at Jake Brown Live. Make sure you smash this thumbs up on the video. Scan this code below. Become a Mets Daily Insider member. $5 a month. We are giving away tickets, my own tickets, field level seats to a Mets game. Great seats. To a Mets Daily Insider member, cheaper than a cup of coffee, literally. Coffee across the street in suburban New Jersey, $6 for a large coffee, and I'm done with it in 4 sips. So if you can't afford that, well, it's a tough world, and I get it. So it's I feel bad because I'm like broke.
Land the plane, Jake. Land the plane.
I'm poorer than anyone watching, and I'm talking about $5 being a lot. Anyways, thank you, Figgy, for joining. Let's go Mets, baby.
You got it.
Thanks for watching Mets Daily, everybody. Peace.